Lingua Britannica is a podcast that uses ethnographic interviews to study language use in the extreme metal community. We are studying a music scene known for its love of themes and topics generally considered offensive, and it is likely that some episodes will touch on topics or opinions some listeners may find tasteless or ethically problematic. Ethnographic researchers aim to adopt the interviewee's point of view so that we can draw out and study the attitudes, beliefs, and practices that are important to them. We want to make it clear that in presenting these conversations here, we do not endorse any of their content. Our aim is to explore the thought processes behind language use in this long-running, international and yet understudied scene. Hi, and welcome back to Lingua Britannica with me, Jess Crook, and my co-host, Wes Robertson.
Hello, welcome to first episode of the year.
Yeah. In this episode, we have Ruttomieli of Moonlight Sorcery. How you going? Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So to begin, how would you describe Moonlight Sorcery's music to someone who hasn't heard of it before? Particularly as Encyclopedia Metallum describes you as symphonic or melodic black metal. Is that your kind of preferred genre label?
Well, I guess melodic black metal is quite on spot, but we have strong influences of melodic death metal and even power metal. I guess it's melodic black metal is just fine. Mm-hmm. The symphonic tag is a little bit exaggerating. Maybe it's not that symphonic, more like melody.
And before you started this band, how did you feel about lyrics in metal, or especially specifically in black metal? Like, did you care? We've had people that love reading lyric sheets, and some people who didn't look at it until they started singing. Where do you kind of fit in this spectrum?
Well, I have always enjoyed reading lyrics, especially in black metal, because they're just fine. But it's not necessary to have readable lyrics. For example, thrash metal or death metal, it's just gore or something. It's not. Then I don't want to read it. It's not necessary. But in black metal, they usually mean something.
So what do you mean by not necessary? Because you said that you generally wouldn't gravitate towards death metal lyrics or I suppose, thrash lyrics. What about them reads as unnecessary to you?
They're so in line with the music. They're just being brutal or edgy, about zombies and all that stuff. So it's not necessary to read them. That's what I think. Beforehand. You didn't read those, and you still know what it's all about.
Do you find black metal lyrics to have more freedom then? I guess because black metal has its own, tropes and stereotypes. The winter, the cold. But do you find more interesting topics being explored in black metal?
Definitely, it can be there can be just like that in death metal or thrash metal, but in black metal, it's there is a bit more freedom.
Well, do you think more broadly beyond kind of subgenre differences, can you tell the difference between a metal band's lyrics and a non-metal band's lyrics?
Maybe metal bands more often they are about some mystic things and brutality. That's the main difference. But if you think it as a whole, there is not that much differences with non-metal music. But there is some little things, but it's mainly in different metal genres. There's different things. In black metal, there's forests and winter and all that stuff. Death metal has its gore, and sometimes thrash metal is political.
So what do you think makes for metal lyrics that are good and conversely bad, or perhaps specifically within black metal?
Well, good lyrics fit with the music. And they're honest. That makes a good lyric. And coherency is another thing that is that makes good lyrics. They are coherent. And bad lyrics feel like they're completely out of place and they are boring. Or badly written.
What makes you feel like a lyric is out of place?
Well, if you think black metal, you can't sing like saving animals, or like flowers, or it doesn't fit.
Mhm.
It could be like experimental, but still it doesn't fit.
Mhm.
Just can't.
So how can you make lyrics that fit the music but also don't end up being boring or repetitive, given that there are so many like genre conventions in black metal like we discussed?
That's a real hard. And I guess some of my lyrics are more in line with that usual black metal lore, and maybe somebody finds them boring. But then again, I find them like feeling the atmosphere. They're the main thing, one of the main things. But yeah, that I actually don't really know.
It's okay. It's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell us about when you first started writing your own lyrics? And, if you can, detail some of the differences in how you've approached lyrics since you started, up until more recently.
I started maybe I was like 13 years old, and they were just copying like main themes in black metal or death metal, and they just repeating the theme. But when I really started to write poems at my early 20s, and they were totally different. Usually now I kind of write poems when I write lyrics, and when I have much snippets of like every sort, and then I just start to look what part goes where, and I make them like a coherent, like a full piece of lyric.
So your approach now is more like larger scale, like thinking about the whole?
Yeah, I just write. I have like huge masses of text in my computer, and then I like when there's a song, I just hearing the song. Okay, this is like this. It feels like this. This part is maybe something that goes in this song, and at some point there is a red thread. Okay, this and this and this. These are like they fit together, and then I work it on.
Do you ever write before like you hear the music, or do you usually hear a song and then write lyrics to it?
No, I have snippets already made, and then comes the music.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hear like, okay, this is that kind of song, and this is what I wrote earlier. It goes like here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So before we ask about your specific lyric choices, we like to start by asking about where people sit in the debate on like if metal lyrics are just fantasy or if they're reflective of kind of personal beliefs. Where does your lyrics sit in this issue? Like, do you view them as kind of fantasy, or do you try to say something about yourself or your opinions through them, or is it somewhere in between?
I guess they are not. They are definitely more personal expression than fantasy.
Mm.
I use like fantastical and mythological elements, but I don't want to write just fantasy. It's boring. I would even go as far as stating they are rather spiritual.
Spirit. I mean, is that does that feel odd to do in black metal? I mean, stereotypically, it's sort of the anti-spiritual genre, right? Historically,
No, it's definitely not.
No,
Black metal is spiritual genre.
Hmm.
It's like not Christianity or other like religion, but spiritual and religion is different things.
Okay. So do you feel that like then you're continuing kind of a tradition in being spiritual in your lyrics?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, looking at specific choices that you've made in your lyrics, a lot of your lyrics do feature, as you've mentioned, a lot of the kind of typical trappings that fans of black metal would easily recognize as typical of the genre. For instance, as you mentioned, you have a lot of lyrics that reference, for instance, light and darkness, the forest and the cold, as well as swords, blood, and wolves. So you mentioned earlier that you wanted to write lyrics that are compatible with the music, but what made you select these particular elements that are so common in black metal, as opposed to others?
Can you repeat the last phrase?
Yeah. So what made you select these particular typical black metal themes over others?
That's because they right on fit with my music or our music. The music is like, it feels magical and use like magical vocabulary. How you say it? Vocabulary?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the forests and all that nature vocabulary, it represents like dark and hidden subconscious and maybe some heathen traditions, and that's why they're so popular in black metal.
Well, another kind of common theme that we noted in the lyrics, perhaps unsurprising given the name Moonlight Sorcery, but almost every one of your songs has some reference to the moon, the sun, or the sky, as in lines like "Hail to thee, O black moon," "Bright as stars in the sky, beneath a scarlet sky, look at the horizon, the fiery crack of dawn." Why is this particular theme so consistent across your lyrical catalog? What brings you to this metaphor of like the moon, the sun, the sky, the stars? And is it related to the band name in any way?
Yeah, it's related, and I think I myself I am like obsessed with the moon. I love it.
What attracts you to it?
I think I'm fascinated by the mysteries and it's so unknown. Everything that's out there, moon and the stars and the space and heavens and whatever, they are so mystic and like unknown. I have always yearned to some unknown forces. They're like, that's some, because I don't know. That fascinates me, and the mystery. And they are actually like, they're symbols and they have like symbolic value. But yeah, definitely connected to our name.
Well, looking further at your writing about the moon, we notice that in songs that reference the moon, there is occasionally a feminine figure who has some connection to the moon that's typically only referred to as she or her. So, for instance, in Woven Hour, you write about blazing eyes that behold the night, ancient as blood in her veins, secrets in Woven Mind Hide, in Old Hatred, a Wolf in Forest One, in Human Flesh shall the runes be carved, chanting a spell, whispering a rhyme, moon in her soul, dark lore enthralled, dust in her heart, sorcery of primal kind. And similarly, Into the Silvery Shadows of Night, you describe an unspoken longing arises in my world, teared apart, and by her lunar blood shall my end be foretold. And when the time comes, moon gets a veil of spell, through which her silver covers me with remembrance. She steps into the light and smiles, her womb glistening in rays of my sun. So what we wanted to ask is, who is this feminine figure and what does she represent to you?
That's usually because the feminine is connected to the subconscious, magic and the realms of the night side and so on. And the night side itself is like a feminine archetype. And that's how it goes in the first song you mentioned, but that's different in Silvery Shadows, because in that song it has really like personal meaning. That's not the feminine archetype of anything. It has symbolic value, but it means something to me.
Okay.
It's like a love song.
So, I mean, I'm not gonna pry it. Like, is it a real person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you say that it's like a love song. So would that imply that it's possible to write love songs within the genre of black metal?
Yeah, definitely. At long as it's like black metalish.
Because you mentioned like you can't do songs about flowers and stuff earlier, but so it's possible. It just requires a lot of like framing work, kind of a lot of phrasing.
Yeah, and like love is a feeling, and black metal is about atmosphere and feelings.
Okay.
Or they are like there, but like things like flowers or doing good. But you can like express some feelings through black metal, of course.
So another striking element of your lyricism is that you blend English and Finnish languages. So most of your songs are in English, but you've released at least one song in Finnish on each of your releases, giving you a total of 8 songs written entirely in English, 4 written entirely in Finnish, and 2, specifically part 1 and 2 of the song Woven Hour, that use both languages together. So why did you decide to produce lyrics in Finnish and English? Why not just write entirely in one or the other? Obviously, around the world, a lot of metal lyrics are written in English. But did you ever feel any pressure from this to avoid writing in Finnish?
That's something that has bothered me since the first EP. Mixing 2 languages isn't the most coherent thing to do, and I like coherency.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a lot better writing in Finnish, and some things just work better in English, although I'm better to write in Finnish. Maybe it's just because my foreign years that some things in English work better. But I have planned to write only in Finnish, but let's see. It demands a lot of time to write Finnish, and I have never had any a proper time to delve that deep in my Finnish language, because although I'm better to write in Finnish, it's also very much harder.
So English is easier?
Yeah, definitely, because I am non-English speaker. Nobody demands absolutely good language, and I guess all non-English speakers in metal, it's not that big thing, so it makes it easier. Because my knowledge is limited in English, I am not native speaker, so it's kind of easier. So
when you write in
bad, they are not so good.
I like them. I think they're pretty good. So when you write in Finnish, then is there more pressure because it's your first language, so it has to be? Is there a feeling that it has to be really good?
Yes, just like that. But you said do I have any pressure to write completely in English because of them? Most people can read it. I say no, because if somebody wants to really understand what I'm saying, they can easily translate it, and it means a lot to me to write in Finnish.
So what then works better in English?
Hard to say. For instance, if I use many, the words Tuonela or whatever, Finnish words that can't be translated to English, it's easier to write in Finnish. But when I write the usual black metal lore, Winter and whatever, it sounds better in English because it's so familiar to everyone. I guess it's that.
So we noticed that in many of your Finnish songs, there's references to Finnish culture and mythology, kind of linking to what you just said. For instance, Woven Hour Part 2 mentions, and I apologize for my pronunciation here, but Hornankatila, which according to Wikipedia is something like hellfire, a real or imaginary place which is hot and dreadful, like the crater of a live volcano. And later in the same song, you describe stepping down to Tuonela, which is the underworld in traditional Finnish mythology. What led you to kind of include these references to Finnish mythology and culture in the song? And was the desire to talk about these things impacting the use of Finnish?
I am referring to Finnish mythology also in the English lyrics, but they're buried under. So it's not that exceptional in my Finnish. But the word Hornankatila is used here metaphorically, and they are referring to a very chaotic state of mind, just like a hellfire or volcano of thoughts. You really good, you had that. It's like that. And in Finnish mythology, Väinämöinen, which is equivalent for Odin, steps down to Tuonela to get spells or words from the dead. And also in Finnish witchcraft, the shaman falls in trance to the beat of the shaman drum to get information from the dead. And that's a metaphor also in the song, going to the Tuonela. to get information, spells, words. It's like in this context, it's like reaching nirvana or like hanging on the branch of the Yggdrasil, going to the Tuonela. That's the same thing.
Is it important for you as a Finnish musician in a Finnish band to have elements of your language and these elements of Finnish mythology like on the global stage?
Yes, definitely. But that's also some of my interests to explore Finnish mythology.
Is it difficult at all to explore Finnish mythology in English? I'm just thinking in the context of trying to translate terms like the ones you've just mentioned. If we were going to talk about Tuonela as the underworld, for instance, like would something be lost there?
Yeah, it gets lost. You can't translate it. Some words you can, but that depends on the lyric I'm writing.
So, do you ever think about how non-Finnish speakers engage with the references and Finnish language lyrics more broadly? Like, have you you mentioned that everyone can translate it, but have you had people come up who don't speak Finnish and talk to you about these lyrics or write to you about them?
I don't actually want to make it too easy for the listener. So I guess fellow Finnish is like almost as clouded or lost as like a non-Finnish speaker. They are not easy in Finnish, and they are quite cryptic, my lyrics. And it would be like wonderful to hear how people interpret them.
Is that crypticness part of the whole, like you mentioned the black metal package with the spirituality and the magic, is the cryptic part of that? Like if the lyrics were really really straightforward, would that not match what you do?
Yeah, to some extent, yes.
One particular set of songs we wanted to talk about was parts 1 and 2 of the Woven Hour, which we've already kind of mentioned. But the reason we wanted to talk about these is because they're written partially in English and partially in Finnish. So part 1 is predominantly in English, with only the final 2 of the song's 9 stanzas written in Finnish, while part 2 includes considerably less English, with 16 of the 21 stanzas written in Finnish. So why did you write this song in a mixture of English and Finnish, where all the other songs you've written are entirely either English or Finnish only?
I think that's coincidence. And probably has something to do with the length of the songs. They're very lengthy, and I had snippets in English and in Finnish. And when I worked the lyrics, I didn't like it. Some of the parts wouldn't be, if I translate them like in English, they don't work. And it's like that. And then it just went like that.
Okay.
And when we did the first Woven Hour, then we thought like the second one, when Loitsumestari had that same kind of like song, and I feel okay, this is just like the Woven Hour in piercing. So let's make it part 2.
Mm.
And I used same methods like in part 2.
Okay. Well, you already mentioned that English has a bit more freedom for you and Finnish has more pressure, but more like practically, are there any things that key differences that you find in writing in English versus Finnish in terms of like what you have to do to put a song together, or even just like choices you have to make, options that exist in Finnish that don't exist in English? Like, if someone who doesn't speak Finnish, what might surprise us about what goes into writing Finnish lyrics?
I think I said it earlier, but you can write like rather bad lyrics in English and that still sounds somewhat credible.
Okay, yeah.
But it's much harder to write in Finnish. And that's most certainly because I am not a native speaker. And most metal lyricists are not native speakers of English, I guess. And that's why it's kind of okay to make like linguistic mistakes. And that's the freedom of English. But you can do it with your native, you can't do it with your native language. That's the pressure.
What parts of writing in Finnish do you find the trickiest?
To get it sound poetic and not just straightforward.
Mm.
To use, not to use like same words over and over again. Find different words, like for night.
Mm-hmm.
I love night, the word, but I have to express it differently.
This may be perhaps an obvious question, but as non-Finnish speakers, do you find that the lyrics that you write in Finnish are distinct from the kind of style of language that you'd use in like daily life?
Yes, they are very much like that. They are poetic, and I use like old language. It's not like the real old, but it's not the same.
Mm-mm.
And I want to use it because that's the magic of it all. If I say just let's go to work and have fun, that's not good.
Not very magical.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay. So, one key difference we were able to note between how you write in Finnish and English is for the names of songs. Your English song titles and album titles usually involve multiple words. There is one single word song in Constellations, but you have tracks like The Moonlit Dance of the Twisted Jester's Blood-Soaked Rituals or Into the Silvery Shadows of Night, which are quite long. Whereas in contrast, all of your Finnish titles are quite short. You have 6 in total, and 2 are 1 word long, 3 are 2 words long, and 1 is 3 words long, so much shorter than the longest English name. Do you know what might have caused this difference? Why do you prefer short titles for Finnish songs and longer titles for English songs?
That's about grammar. In Finnish, one word can say a lot more than in English.
Okay,
and in
that's cool.
Grammar, we have like lots of compound words, and English doesn't. If I say like can't like remember any good examples, but Finnish is like compact.
Mm-hmm.
It's compact in relation to English.
Okay. Do you ever find it frustrating that English sentences get so long? Is that like...
Not really. It helps when I am like, what's that word? When I trying to fit them with the music, It's easier. In Finnish, it's a lot more trickier.
Oh, because like you can do more with less, kind of like a sentence will cover a full bar sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your English lyrics, we noticed that the majority of your lyrics are written in a kind of modern, if kind of literary English. However, the song For Thy Light is Ice obviously contains forms of Old English, including the pronoun thee in place of the modern English you and thy in place of the modern English your. So why did you choose to include these elements of Old English in your lyrics for this song, but not in other English medium songs?
Old English actually fits better with genre like black metal because it's like mystic, and I would use it more if I could, but I am not expert in Old English. And these are like, I knew how to use these like thee and thy, but it's hard to like incorporate that to every song.
If you had the ability, would you?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. What is that does that link to what we said about, like, do you want the English lyrics and the Finnish lyrics to both have that kind of poetic quality to them? Is the same goal?
Yeah, but I am a lot better in Finnish.
I mean, I don't know any Old English either, so don't feel too don't stress about it. I know thou and thy, and that's about it as well. Okay.
I have to like read Romeo and Juliet or something.
That'll help, yeah, for sure. So, I guess looking kind of further at the vocab choices, it also seems like you have a balance of sort of mono and bisyllabic words and multisyllabic words, but there are occasional uncommon words like fetid or primordial. Still, most of the vocabulary is familiar to the average English language user. So, lines like "the secret of streaming blood ritually sheds from the moon vein," "in the chambers of all dawn lies the castle of my dreams, the throne falls apart into pieces of the keys, and through the light they scream." This is not like on the street vocabulary, but it is comprehensible to most English users, even if they don't use all the vocab terms in their daily life. Did you intentionally work to make these English lyrics kind of comprehensible in terms of word use, or is this something that just happened naturally?
I most certainly did not work to make my lyrics more comprehensible, but I guess like words like primordial are very basic words in the context of black metal. For like a commoner, they are not somebody who doesn't know anything about black metal. They sound like not the daily, but in the black metal field, they are because they are like big words.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the impact of using big words? Like, why are they so common in black metal, in your point of view?
That's because of the atmosphere, poetic, prayer-like, or I guess that's something black metal is aiming to be like spiritual, or some black metal, definitely all, not all, but many, especially in like symphonic and melodic black metal. They are like arcane and they have the vibe, so to speak.
If Moonlight Sorcery didn't have that kind of symphonic, vibe to it, if it was, say, like you incorporate keyboards and you have the kind of soaring solos in some songs, if your band was more stripped down, like kind of early style, do you think you would use simpler words as well to match that?
Probably not. If we would play like Darkthrone, it the poetic thing fits with that. But if it goes down to the battery and more like crashing and rock and rolling, then it would be definitely like simpler.
Okay. So the do you think then like black metal language has gotten kind of more complex over time?
Probably yes.
Interesting. Well, one thing that we kind of ask everyone that comes on is whether or not you use a thesaurus when you're writing. Like we've had some people that say that they love it, and other people say that they refuse to do it. Like they only want the words that are in their brain. Where do you kind of sit in this? Do you ever, in English or Finnish, I suppose?
In Finnish, I don't use anything. Maybe sometimes something when I like searching words. But in English, I use Google Translator. I didn't remember the source, but now you mention it that would be like better.
Well, yeah, I hope. Okay, cool. Hope it saves you some time. That'd be great.
Yeah, why not?
And sometimes I write like in Finnish and I translate it into English.
Ah, right.
And sometimes it might be work better or not, and vice versa. I write in English and then I translate it in Finnish, and something happens.
You translate from English into Finnish?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Interesting.
It goes both ways.
Do you have an example of like do you remember an instance where you translated something and it came out better in the other form? Could you explain like what happened?
Don't remember those occasions, but I used to I write something and I like the whole text, the bigger mass of text, and I write it like in English, and then I get it to the Google Translator and see what comes. But of course, it's like they're translated like badly.
Of course, yeah,
but
sure.
I have to like make them better. But sometimes there's something that I didn't like get at the first place, but okay, let's like that, and I got like inspired by it.
Interesting.
Like inspired by words. Some words are very inspiring.
Interesting. Well, another pattern that we noticed was that a lot of your lyrics contain lines that involve fewer than 4 words. For example, lyrics from In Coldest Embrace read, "In cold embrace, the night I carried my flame far beyond sky, with coldest of light, the star of my eternity shines far beyond. So what effect is created through this kind of short phrasing? And are your lyrics structured in this way just to match up with the music, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, it's because of the arrangements. But it's easier to write like that also.
Mm.
But the arrangement is a point when everything like changes. I write something, I write the lyrics, they're ready. But when I am starting to arrange them, or somebody else, we all arrange, it tends to change a bit.
Mm-hmm. So for almost all of your songs, then, whether in English or Finnish, assuming our the Google translations we have are accurate, you write in the first person. So as shown in lines like "In contempt, I release a battle cry," or "I beckon your name to the fire, for I am your nightmare," and "With the coldest of light, the star of my eternity shines far beyond." Is there a reason why you adopt this first person I perspective so consistently across your songs? And what would change if you were to write from the perspective of a narrator or in the third person?
I guess it's the way that way because of the personal meaning of the lyrics. I write to myself, and I am myself when I write. It feels a little bit odd to me to write in third person. Then it would like suggest that I'm telling a fantasy story or stories. I don't tell stories. I'm incorporating feelings and atmospheres.
Those kind of third person stories are fairly common in black metal, though, right? Like, I guess a big example, say Cradle of Filth, like Her Ghost in the Fog is all told. It's part of it's the first person, but there's also like the story and these people that are doing things. Is there a reason you don't like those kind of narrative approaches, or in your own lyrics at least?
I don't. It just feels a little bit odd to me. For me to write it. It's okay when it's in Cradle of Filth, but for me it feels like a bit. I don't know. Maybe if it would be like a fairy tale alike, or some old folk tale. But I still have to incorporate me to the lyrics.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is the I in the songs always you, or is it like a character that you're embodying in the song?
It could be both. I let the listener decide or interpret how they want.
So sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
Some of those eyes are more personal. It's definitely me, and in some lyrics, it's just like I incorporate me to that, but it's not me.
Are you telling folk tales or fairy tales in those cases a little bit then, or is it still kind of grounded in your reality?
Everything is grounded in my reality, so I'm not like referring fairy tales. I use like fairy tales as a metaphor for something else, because if you're interested in fairy tales, you can go and read them. They are already there.
Sure, yeah. So you're trying to put something new out there in a way?
In a way, yes.
Okay. Well, maybe this links to our next question, because we noted that, again, assuming we translated your lyrics correctly, which I don't always trust the robot, but it seems like you don't have a single song that's written in the past tense. There are lines that are in the that are set in the past, but they're still written in future tense, and all the framing is in the present. So you have a "this is happening now" perspective, as in lines like "Blood moon glides from behind the treetop, cloaked in the night. She marches on," or "I cultivate my demise," or "In quiet shades, lurking fear arrives. There is no grace, no earthly joy divine." Why do you think you tend to write as though the events in your songs are happening here and now, or rather than in like the future, or in particular in the past? Why don't you talk like it seems like you do talk about things that have happened to you, but you always frame it as though it's kind of happening or unfolding now?
I don't know really, but it could be linked to the last question, or it must have something to do with my present life that I am like reflecting here and now. But it's interesting, you guys, like you found that in my lyrics, because I am that kind of person who enjoys dwelling in the past.
Interesting.
It might be just a coincidence.
Do you know why that love of dwelling in the past doesn't appear? Like, do you have any idea why it might not appear in your lyrics? Like,
it might be that I am like nostalgic person and nostalgic to times I have ever been myself. And I can bring the past like into present time. But everything that's happened like in my own past, there's not that much to tell about.
Does it help, like when you're singing live, or just even singing lyrics in a band practice, to be focused on like this is happening now? Does it put you in a certain experience?
I have never rehearsed a single word in this band, so I don't know. The rehearsals they're coming.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess we'll find out. Yeah, I'll have to ask you later.
Yeah, I mean, how about in terms of performance, though? Does it change the performance to be performing a song as if, the lyrics are happening now?
Probably not. I just, I focus squeeze that out of me. I am not I probably can't focus what I'm saying in live to be practiced at first.
Mm-hmm.
When we are in the studio, I just growl, crawl. So I'm trying to be angry.
That's cute.
The fellow band never said more angry, please.
That's funny because I don't necessarily read your lyrics as very angry.
Yeah, they don't feel like very angry lyrics.
Yeah.
There's some blood and stuff, but they don't seem like you're. I mean, metal is always a little aggressive, but I didn't read your lyrics as pissed off.
Yeah, I have pissed off lyrics, but I have lyrics which are not at all angry.
Is it hard when your band member's angrier and you're like, these lyrics aren't angry, it's not an angry song?
I am not an angry person, so it's hard to squeeze the angriness out of me. It's not an easy task to do, to sing black metal vocals. You have to focus it comes the good outcome, but also the feeling is good. So that equals angry enough.
Mm. So if we can ask about what's not in your lyrics, with the exception of the occasional rhyming lines, and the night draws to a close and the darkness begins to disclose, I am left with my newfound strength to rule over the earth at any length. It seems like other than lines like this, you don't really do a lot of rhyming. So is this a coincidence, or have you intentionally avoided rhyming, for some particular reason?
It must be coincidental because I write rhymes a lot of time. When I try to be poetic, I write rhymes. Maybe it's because it gets too poetic.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. I have one lyrics coming now and full of rhymes. It's that's the basic of the lyric rhymes.
We aren't, again, we're not. I was going to say not skilled, but we have no knowledge of Finnish at all. So we couldn't really tell if your Finnish lyrics have rhyme.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
Is some languages don't have a tradition of rhyme. I imagine Finnish does, but is there rhyme in Finnish poetry? Is it a common thing? And do you try to do it when you write in Finnish?
Yeah, I try to be it's not a poetic form of any. It's a free form, but I use same kind of rhymes that in 100 years ago the poetics were using. That's cool.
So there is a tradition of that kind of rhyme schemes?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And in Kalevala they have this I don't know what it's called in English, but it's trochee of some sorts that is in Kalevala, that the whole thing is written in that particular way.
Okay. Nifty. So we also noticed that you don't really have any swear words in your lyrics. Is there? And again, assuming our Google Translate's right, they're not in English or Finnish. We didn't notice any vulgarities. Is there a reason that you've chose to avoid cursing?
Yeah, because in this kind of melodic black metal swearing words, they do not belong there because we are trying to be sophisticated. That's not magical if you say fuck. It's not magical.
I like that framing. It's fuck isn't magical.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's a showstopper.
Okay. Is that true in Finnish too? The same kind of feeling. It doesn't feel it loses the magic if you include a swear word.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, yeah. Do you swear much in like day-to-day life? Like, is when you're just hanging out with your friends, do you swear in there, or is it something you try to avoid in general?
Hell yeah, I swear. But it's not part of Moonlight Sorcery.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So I guess that all links to the trying to keep the lyrics different from the day-to-day. Then, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe it's something like you can write scientific text and you can write black metal lyrics. They are done like there's a manner how it should be done.
So is it like you mentioned earlier at the start of this interview, that you said black metal has a freedom to it and what you can talk about, but is it also kind of like, are there these traditions that you feel have to be sort of maintained in what you're doing?
Yeah, some extent, yes. I could be more experimental, but I don't want. But black metal allows me to do it.
I guess why like no judgment or anything, but why don't you want to be more experimental in your personal lyrics?
Maybe because I enjoy to read like traditional lyrics. I don't like that expressional music myself, though. We make music that we love.
For sure.
Well, that brings us to our final question, which is to tie all of this together. What would you say is ultimately the role of lyrics in your work and in the extreme metal genre more broadly? Or perhaps the black metal genre, given that's been the kind of major source of our discussion.
Yeah. My role of my lyrics would be like they are like evoking strong emotional charge. That's the main and the magical atmosphere. But if you think black metal lyrics or the whole extreme metal scene, the ultimate goal is probably expressing and reflecting oneself. Like that's the main thing.
Do you think
spirituality?
So do you think black metal is a very personal genre in a way?
Yeah, definitely. Much more than like death metal.
Okay. Interesting. I guess could you elaborate on that? Like what I obviously, the songs about zombies and death and gore and stuff don't feel very personal, certainly. But I guess why do you think black metal has this tradition of being personal or singing about the self through the genre?
Maybe because when somebody finds black metal at the first place, it's something huge. It's really special. It's like any metal genre is not like black metal. So it kind of naturally has to be like very personal because it's really personal to those who listen to it. It's not just music.
Does this
you have probably heard this many times, but it is like that. Of course, you can do just black metal, which is just music. But
I guess I should ask you this way back at the beginning. But like when you first encountered black metal, then was it sort of a mind blowing experience?
Yeah, definitely. I was always like drawn to brutal music, like hardcore punk in like 10 years old. But then when I found like black metal, I was like in awe. It had that mystic atmosphere I was fond of at my childhood already. So yes, it was a big thing.
That's fascinating. Thank you. This is yeah. We don't black metal artists don't usually reply to our emails, so thank you so much.
Yeah, we have a critically low number of black metal interviewees. Yeah. So if anyone out there is in a black metal band and wants to be interviewed, let us know.
Yeah, and obviously thanks for putting up with English questions for an hour. It's I know it's really hard to do it, but thank you so much.
This was my first interview ever.
Oh my gosh, really?
Oh. Yeah. So honored.
Oh yeah, that's an absolute honor. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for making time. We really appreciate it. It's I've absolutely love what you guys have been doing. The newest album is incredible. So thank you for sharing all this about it.
Thank you for very good questions.
It'd be a bummer if your first interview had a bunch of bad questions, huh?
Yeah.
Well, so what's I guess to just wrap up, what's next for Moonlight Sorcery? You mentioned that you'll be rehearsing. Is there going to be a tour, perhaps?
At some point, some live things will be done. Not sure entirely when, but maybe 2025, maybe.
Okay.
But till then, we are like not on a hiatus, but we take it easy now and start practicing, and let's see what happens. We have like our daily lives, so this has been a hell of a ride.
Of course. And where should people go to find out like the latest news about Moonlight Sorcery and follow any of your new releases?
I guess Facebook. that's the way, or Instagram or whatever the official platforms are. Avant-garde music.
Cool. Well,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest period, the hiatus. In 2025, if you want to come down to Australia, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Would glad to come.
That'd be awesome. I imagine the temperature is a bit
wonderful.
shocking. You look a lot colder than we are at the moment. It's summer down here, so.
Yeah, we have a coldest of winter.
Yeah. Well, cheers. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll be in touch when we release the episode.
Yep, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for listening to Lingua Brutalica. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you stay tuned for our next episode. Before we leave, we just wanted to acknowledge that this podcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay respects to their elders, past and present.